Welcome to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy. The Eternals has finally been released after a year of delays, and all the discourse seems to be about the Rotten Tomatoes score, the box office receipts, and which country banned the film for what reason. But I think it's time that we all slow down, take a breath from the discourse, and ponder the intentions behind Chloe Zhao's meditation on time and motherhood. It's time for us to take a step back and ask, what's the point of The Eternals? The Eternals is a film about creation. No. There's more to it than that, I promise. I got more to say. The film begins with the words, "in the beginning," also the opening words of the Bible, Book of Genesis. The book is about creating the universe, the heavens, the earth, animals, and the Garden of Eden. It's also a book filled with the destruction of the world through the flood, and numerous cities falling to the wrath of God as punishment for the sins of mankind. So, by beginning this movie with text on screen that reads, "in the beginning," Chloe Zhao is telling us that this is a biblical movie that will revisit the same themes as the Book of Genesis. The very first shot is of the sun, the source of life in our solar system. This is why, in the Bible, God's first act of creation was to say, "Let there be light." It's very possible that the Celestials made this star, that we are looking into their original furnace of creation. Harriet tells Circe later on that without the Celestials, the universe would fall into darkness. And it is correct, actually, that the universe is spiraling toward eternal darkness. As you can see in this incredible time-lapse video, the universe will eventually fall into entropy, as every atom is slowly pulled apart so far that no more energy will be produced. This is the darkness which these gods spoke the light into. Without them guiding the universe's energy, the universe's atoms will separate until everything is in darkness. The movie begins with the orb coming out of the Harriet statue and entering Ajax, who then awakens the other Eternals. This is like Michelangelo's portrait of God granting Adam life. It takes a single touch from God to create sentience. The movie also occurs over 7 days. Just like in the Book of Genesis, the world was created in 6 days and God rested on the 7th. But there's also a twist to this. The movie is not about the Celestials creating the world in 7 days, it's about the Eternals creating a new world in 7 days. A world where humankind is freed from celestial interference, where the Eternals become the new gods of humanity. In the Book of Genesis, God creates the Garden of Eden, a paradise where Adam and Eve can live. Now, I've always seen this garden as a metaphor for childhood. We're born innocent, we're not aware of our nakedness, but then as we eat from our own personal tree of knowledge, we are aware of our nakedness and eventually have to leave the garden or our childhood homes. The Eternals also experience their own Garden of Eden in Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. As humanity begins to thrive, their potential seems limitless. The Eternals are optimistic about the future and excited to help them. Circe and Icarus fall in love and they are naked together, just like Adam and Eve. Circe even has the gift of creation. She makes water to help the crops grow and can create animals out of thin air. This is likely why she was chosen as the point of view character for the movie. Her powers, like the movie, are about creating new life. When Icarus and Circe meet, they are pure blank slates. They only know their names, much like when Adam and Eve met in the garden.
I am here to be with you.
So the two of them are perfect metaphors for Adam and Eve, the father and mother of humanity. But the story of creation has a tragic ending, the fall of mankind. In the Garden of Eden, God gave Adam and Eve 2 trees, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. And he said, you can eat whatever you want from the tree of life, but don't touch the tree of knowledge, which of course Eve does. She persuades Adam to do the same, effectively rebelling against their creator, their God. In the Eternals, it's Ajax, the mother figure of the Eternals, who is this Eve figure, the woman who leads her fellow creations into rebellion against their God, the Celestials.
How long do we have?
7 days.
Later, she passes this on to another mother proxy, Circe, who becomes the new leader of this rebellion against God. But it's not quite right to compare the Eternals to humans. They're more like angels, divine servants of God's will who interfere in the lives of humans.
Fear not, Mary, for you have found favor with God.
Whereas the deviants are more like the demons and monsters from myth and lore. But demons are actually just fallen angels, aren't they? Lucifer was the brightest of God's angels, and he led a rebellion against God, along with 1/3 of the angel host. And of course, he lost, and he and his followers were cast into hell. In one of the movie's key scenes, Druig explains that the deviants are exactly like the Eternals. They're all fighting for the survival of their own kind, and they are all pawns being manipulated by their creators. In many ways, Druig is the Lucifer of this movie. He's the first Eternal to lead an open rebellion against the gods. He defies the will of Ajax to create his own community of humans. Just as Lucifer rules in hell, Druig takes his own followers to a secluded place where he has ultimate rule. In the Bible, after Adam and Eve are exiled from the garden, they have two children, Cain, a farmer, and Abel, a shepherd. These two actually represent humanity's divide between hunting and planting cultures, which began in the Paleolithic era and continues all the way through to the musical Oklahoma with the farmer and the cowman should be friends.
One man likes to push a plow, the other likes to chase a cow, but that's no reason why they can't be friends.
Anyways, Cain kills Abel. It's the world's first murder. And from that point on, the world is filled with sin and Cain is cursed to
walk the earth. What you mean walk the earth? You know, like Cain.
So, why am I talking about Cain and Abel? Because their story is reflected in this movie, through the Eternals and through humanity. Icarus kills Ajax and keeps the murder a secret, just like Cain did. And the movie ends with his own exile, just like Cain was exiled from the rest of humanity. Now, humanity has basically been killing itself as long as there's been humanity. But our Cain moment, our unforgivable sin, was the invention of genocide, when the people from one continent came to another and slaughtered everyone wholesale. When a hunting culture killed a planting culture. When Cortez attacks Tenochtitlan, it's the moment that divides the Eternals and humanity. After this, humanity begins to purge in beliefs of gods and myths of old, like Icarus, Circe, and Athena, and instead they worship gods of their own making. The god of money, the god of technology. This is the moment when humanity exiled themselves from the Garden of Eden that the Eternals had offered them. So let's talk about how God behaves in the Old Testament, because Ereshkigal and the Celestials behave very much like the Old Testament God. Now, the God of the Torah is often benevolent, bringing many blessings to his people and delivering them from slavery. But this God of the Old Testament is also very vengeful, destroying entire cities, flooding the world, and eventually taking away everything poor Job ever had just to win a bet with Satan. In the same way, the Celestials have judged humanity as unworthy to survive and will destroy the entire world with a natural disaster, the birth of their bouncing new space baby. Whereas, when the Eternals rebel, they seem more influenced by the New Testament. Now, the defining event in the New Testament was the crucifixion of Jesus. This was God made flesh, sacrificing his own life for mankind. In the same way, the Eternals used Tiamat's own energy to sacrifice his life. This sets humanity free from the wrath of the Celestials. The Domo is also a triangle, representing the New Testament's Holy Trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Makari even quotes Jesus when she says that they will tell the other Eternals the truth, and the truth shall set them free. And by the way, I gotta say, I'm not endorsing a single religion or a point of view. I'm just pointing out all of these biblical parallels, many of which you can also find in the myths of every single Paleolithic culture. Everyone has a creation story, gods made flesh who sacrificed themselves, a great flood. You get the idea. So, when you kill a god, it essentially means that you become a god. That's why Circe is the only one who can kill Tiamat. Only she has the gift of creation, who can give birth to this new cosmic order. But I'll get into that more later. And speaking of giving birth, boy, is this movie about... Now, we often call our planet Mother Earth, a metaphor that is literal in this movie because Earth is pregnant with a celestial child. The Eternals are split into two halves, the fighters and the nurturers. Traditionally, these roles would be called the fathers and the mothers. Like humanity, they're divided into hunters and gatherers. Ajax is the mother hen of the group, which makes her the mother of human civilization. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon are even designed to look like her armor. Sprite remembers her in a very traditional motherly setting, wearing an apron and a kitchen. Not that this is how all moms are or are supposed to be, it's just how she sees her in this film. So Ajax spends the movie kind of raising the Eternals while they're all raising humanity. The most important part of being a parent is knowing when to let your children go, when to push them out of the Garden of Eden, so to speak. So she sends the rest of them out into the world to find themselves, just as humanity is allowed to exist on its own terms. Even Sprite's story of Gilgamesh and Enkidu is about inspiring humanity to find their own way and to become legends themselves. Phastos, another Eternal whose gift is creation, even finds meaning in a new act of creation, raising a son. Now, the big reveal of the movie is that the Eternals have secretly been midwives to a celestial baby. Then they have to make a very difficult, potentially controversial decision. Are they going to give Earth an abortion? Regardless of where you stand on that issue, the decision to have an abortion is made by the mother. In this case, the Eternals are given the choice of the life of the baby or the mother. In this case, Mother Earth. And like I said before, when Circe and the others take on this decision, they become the new gods, the creators of a new world who decide if the old god lives or dies. Some pretty heavy shit. The Eternals are only able to make this decision because of the movie's other key theme. The deviants were created to protect humanity by eating their apex predators, but then they evolved beyond their programming and became humanity's apex predators. When a species evolves, they are essentially defying their original genetic programming, in a way defying God. When a fish walks on land, it's disobeying its programming to stay in the water. Some would say this is an act of rebellion against God, or the rebellion against the existence of God. In the same way, the deviants prove that the Celestials are not all-powerful. Their programming can be broken. Like Lucifer, they were created to be protectors, but then rebelled against their creators and are labeled demons and monsters afterwards. And this also goes back to what I said earlier about planting and hunting cultures overtaking one another. The Celestials plant a seed, planting culture. The deviants are hunters, so the Celestials create another planting culture, the Eternals. And the movie ends with the Eternals evolving into a hunting culture. They kill the Celestial and leave Earth to hunt for more of their own kind. The Eternals were created as synthetic beings, specifically so they could not evolve physically. The problem is, they were able to evolve emotionally and intellectually. All of them grew to defy their original programming, like a fish crawling onto land. Phastos wanted to raise a family, Sprite wanted to be human, Kingo wanted fame. Even Icarus managed to evolve through his love for Circe. So the Eternals actually evolved spiritually. The Eternals is a deeply spiritual movie. The opening crawl says, this mission makes the Eternals question their faith in the Celestials. But this doesn't mean faith as in, I have faith that we're doing the right thing. This is faith like believing in God. The Eternals go through a religious and spiritual crisis. Circe spends much of the movie trying to commune with Ereshkigal, in effect trying to have her prayers answered by her god. She finally succeeds when they're in Australia, when she goes to meditate near a tree with chimes hanging from its branches. Chimes are often used in meditation to focus and shut out the distractions of the outside world. I thought it was very deliberate that this happens in Australia. Aboriginals practice a meditation called Dadiri, a deep listening to the voice within us, or in Circe's case, to listen to the orb located within her chest. And the Eternals are able to stop Tiamat by becoming one, unified being. Spiritually, they are transcending their own individual selves. They transcended by joining their mind with Tiamat, their god. So in a sense, they all become gods, giving Circe the ultimate power over life and death. The power of a mother to choose death, or the power of a god to show mercy on its creation and choose life. This is what religion and ritual are supposed to do, make us feel connected to something greater, the earth, the seas, or to make us realize that we're all part of a larger tribe. That's the point of the Eternals. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below or at me on Twitter, and if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.